Welcome to the FCPA training series from Corporate Compliance Insights featuring CCI founder Maurice Gilbert and Tom Fox of Tom Fox Law. Tom has practiced law for 25 years and is now assisting companies with FCPA compliance, risk management, and international transactions. Tom writes and speaks around the world on a variety of topics ranging from FCPA compliance, indemnities, and other forms of risk management. The videos in this series provide an introduction to FCPA compliance for legal, compliance, and operations personnel. Please note, the information should not be considered all-inclusive, and we encourage viewers to seek professional advice prior to implementing any compliance program. So let's get started.
This is Maurice Gilbert with Corporate Compliance Insights, and joining me in the studio today is Tom Fox of Tom Fox Law. Today we'll be discussing trends that we're anticipating in 2014 FCPA compliance. So Tom, in this video, we'd like you to give our viewers an overview of trends that you see coming up this coming year in 2014.
I think there are several things that have been communicated to the compliance community by the U.S. government and indeed governments across the globe about anti-corruption and anti-bribery enforcement and compliance going forward. The first one is starting with the Morgan Stanley Declaration of April 2012 was the first time we heard about transaction monitoring from the U.S. government. And I think transaction monitoring moving towards more ongoing and more omnibus and all-encompassing ongoing monitoring is going to be a key point. Most compliance practitioners will tell you that a compliance program should be designed around the following three lines. What did you do to prevent it? What did you do to detect it? And what did you do to fix it after you found out about it? Most monitoring programs have dealt with that detection prong. If something happens, can we detect it? But now we see monitoring moving towards the preventative prong, but now we're seeing it actually being predictive or even prescriptive, so that transaction monitoring, relationship monitoring, communications monitoring can show trends which might indicate a problem which is not a violation is arising. If a problem is arising, can that problem be stopped? But the prescriptive part is, or the prescriptive part is, if an employee is engaging in behavior which may lend itself or tend to indicate a violation is upcoming, can that employee receive additional training? Can more resources be brought to bear to prescript or stop that before it becomes a violation? So I think that's one of the really interesting things that shows the continuing evolving nature of best practices compliance program, moving from transaction monitoring to ongoing monitoring, and now moving from detection to prevention to prescriptive. The second thing is, in the world of international anti-corruption and anti-bribery enforcement, is the GSK case in China. And that case is an enforcement action where the Chinese arrested several GSK China employees and brought charges against the company for violation of domestic Chinese anti-bribery laws. This was the first time that we'd had a government really enforce its own anti-corruption domestic bribery laws, and certainly the first time we've had the Chinese enforce them against Western companies. We don't know the reason. You may never know the reason the Chinese government does anything, and it may be a part of their overall fight against the perception that the party has become corrupt and too big and really not doing the things that it needs to do to stay in power. Whatever the reasons, it doesn't matter. They're enforcing their laws against Western companies. This is the first time we've seen this. The question that I would pose is how many other countries are going to look at this, not see China's all-encompassing fight against fraud and corruption, and only focus on the Western companies. It's really their fault. We're not bad people for taking it. It's them for giving us the money or offering us the money. So I would watch that trend quite closely going forward. Within FCPA enforcement here in the United States, I think one of the clear trends that the U.S. government has shown in 2013 is they're going to go after individuals. They have arrested and brought enforcement actions and criminal charges against several individuals from several countries. BizJet, Alstom, DAP Partners, that was the first financial regulatory company that FCPA charges were brought against. From this, the government has made clear they will use the full panoply of government powers. They will use cooperating witnesses. They will use wiretaps. They will use undercover officers. They will bring charges against individuals. This was one of the criticisms of the department over the past couple of years, and I think they're clearly responding to this. So this enforcement trend against individuals is very significant. And last, really in the compliance program or policy area, I would say the government is moving, or their thinking is evolving in the area of risk assessment. They've, in the 10 hallmarks of an effective compliance program they released last year, they certainly talked about risk assessments. But now when we go to conferences and Department of Justice officials are there, they talk about it's really the cornerstone of your compliance program, because they want you to take a look at what your risks are and really build your compliance program around your risk. To determine your risk, it all starts with a risk assessment. And the government's making more clear that they want to see that as the cornerstone document of your compliance program going forward. So I think companies need to, if they haven't done a risk assessment in the last couple of years, do one. Probably need to start with a full A to Z risk assessment and put that in place and use that as their roadmap for their compliance program going forward. So these are some of the key trends that I see going forward to 2014. We've still got a little bit of time left in this year, and the government may bring other enforcement actions that give us new and different information, or they may communicate new things to us at conferences. But right now, I'd say those look to me to be the key points going forward.
Tom, it's been a pleasure having you participate in our FCPA compliance training series, and we welcome you back for further topics in the future. Thanks for joining us today. And remember, before implementation of your own FCPA compliance program, you may wish to seek professional advice. Also, as a reminder, please visit us online at corporatecomplianceinsights.com.